welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra. Well, in a huge relief for all the Indians above the age of 65, the Insurance Regulator of India, the IRDAI, has directed insurance companies to offer health policies to everyone, including senior citizens above the age of 65. And this was a bold move and a very welcome move, as so far Indian citizens did not have access to any health insurance cover. But over the last few days, a lot of questions, concerns have also come to the fore from senior citizens. Say, for example, they want to know what are the conditions on which they will get this health insurance cover. What will be the premium costs? Will pre-existing diseases be covered? And many more. And therefore, we decided that we will come up with a show to help you, with the help of an expert, understand in great detail what the fine print of these new norms as far as health insurance is concerned. Joining in on the show with me is a very special guest. Mr. Amit Chhabra joins in, the Chief Business Officer, Health Insurance of PolicyBazaar.com. Amit, welcome to Business Today TV. First up, do tell me, what is your own assessment? How big a step is this that IRDAI is now asking health insurance companies to provide that cover to the non-insured thus far? The health insurance concerns is a big issue when it comes to senior citizens, and now they will have an access to it. So for senior citizens community, what does it mean? And also for the industry, a large chunk will now start to access it. So is it a win-win of sorts? How do you explain this?
Sure, Sakshi. So let me explain this. So the regulation basically states that now any health insurance product should be available to any age. What that means is that if somebody is, let's say, 75 years of age, 95 years of age, they should have access to all health insurance plans that are out there. But let me also give you some some important pointers around this. One, it's not that this wasn't available till now. There were always options available for consumers. The only difference is all the options weren't available. So today, what was the scenario was that there were some products which were available to people above the age of 65 years also, and some weren't available. What changes now, in the light of these new guidelines is that the insurance companies have been directed that all plans should be available to people above the age of 65 years. Now, I'll tell you what that means. For consumers, it's great. It's a very, very positive move, because what it means is that, for people above 65 years of age, they get more options, they get more choices when they're looking to buy health insurance. They can get a plan which is low cost, they can get a plan which is high premium, but at the same time has better features, has no limitations. So the market opens up for senior citizens. That's point number one. The second thing, and it's more of a clarification rather, but what a lot of people, and that's exactly what you also said, Sakshi, in fact, that a lot of people, still used to think that if I am a senior citizen, I cannot get health insurance. That is completely a misconception. It was always a misconception, but now this regulation comes in and clarifies that anybody at any age can get a health insurance plan. So just to give you an example, even at 95 years of age, one can get a health insurance plan, which gives you a coverage of 1 crore rupees as well. So now the market significantly opens up for the senior citizens, and there are plans that one can take and get themselves covered. Now, the other important aspect here is, see, you have to look at it in the context of India as an economy. One, we are extremely uninsured. Yeah. People are very susceptible to healthcare expenses, and they don't have money. That's problem number one. Problem number two is social security is not, beyond a few people. There is no social security that people have. So in case there's a large medical bill, people literally have no option or no choice. They have to even sell their houses, dispose of their savings, etc. So I think from that sense, the awareness will increase, and more people will buy health insurance, which is critical, as India is very underserved when it comes to health insurance.
Okay, so this definitely is a welcome step, but a clear misconception cleared here. There were options available to get health insurance cover even prior to these news guidelines, although not all health insurance providers were giving the access to senior citizens. So one of that point, and now the good part is that more and more options will be available to senior citizens, and even at the age of 95 one will be able to access even a higher cover of say 1 crore rupees. So that gives us a lot of relief that even senior citizens can go ahead and ask for a bigger cover. And of course the industry benefits, as large part of the population will now also look to access this, and therefore they will get more and more clients in that respect. Now let's come to the key conditions under which such covers can be provided, and what are the things that one has to keep in mind. So as far as the first information came in, there were reports that pre-existing diseases will be covered. There were reports that suggested maybe even cancer, serious diseases when it comes to kidney or heart, or even AIDS can be covered in such insurance policies. Could you give us more clarity as to what is the true picture here?
Sure. See, firstly, so let's look at it this way. There is a disease which one already has before you're buying a policy. That's called a pre-existing disease.
Yeah.
Now, insurance companies typically used to put a waiting period which would vary from 1 year to 4 years for coverage of the existing disease. For example, let's say I have diabetes already and I buy a health insurance policy. The insurance company will say that diabetes will be covered after 4 years. Everything else gets covered now onwards itself.
Okay.
Now, what the regulator has done is they have said that from a consumer benefit perspective, the maximum waiting period that can be put is 3 years. So for the consumer, it's great because it means that the pre-existing disease waiting periods, which is largely the reason a lot of consumers would buy health insurance, because they are worried that their pre-existing disease will lead to some or the other claim. The maximum waiting period is 3 years. So after 3 years, your pre-existing disease like diabetes, hypertension, could be asthma, thyroid, could be any of these diseases, they will start to get covered after 3 years if you already had it. That's part one. Now, if today you don't have any disease as such, and after buying the policy you contract a disease, could be after 1 year, could be after 6 months, could be after 2 years, they were always covered and they will continue to be covered from right there itself. So there's no change as such, just that if you already had something, then the maximum waiting period that can be applied is 3 years, which earlier was typically 4 years. That's the big change that has happened. Apart from that, if you contract something after buying the policy, could be cancer, could be a kidney, liver, heart disease, all of those are covered completely, and that was always happening.
Okay, got that. And that will not have any waiting period, right? Or any of the future diseases will not have. So those are two very big and very important clarifications right here when it comes to the pre-existing diseases. Even if you are a senior citizen above the age of 65, you are buying a new health cover over there. Remember that your pre-existing disease will be covered after 3 years. That period has got reduced from 4 years to 3 years. So that's a good part. Rest of the things will be covered from day one. So that's another thing. And if you by chance contract any disease after buying the policy, of course from day zero you will be covered for that as well. Another very important point that you've cleared here. What about the premiums? That is a very, very important question that most of the viewers will have in mind. Will these policies for senior citizens, charge them much higher premium than for those who were, say, in the age of 55 to 65, which were getting more options to get cover so far?
No, so let's talk about this. I think this is a very, very important point, and it's something which makes senior citizens quite anxious.
Yeah.
We have seen, we speak to our consumers also. See, a couple of things. One, increasing the age limit does not really mean an increase in premiums. The reason is the pricing has already been done for higher ages, because, so let's say today, if I am 35-year-old, I buy a health insurance policy. The health insurance policy is already priced for up to 99 years of age, because these policies are renewable lifelong. So anyways, they've been priced for all ages. The only difference here is that these ages are now being opened up to buy a new policy as well. So there's no increase in premiums because they are being opened to new consumers. They were anyways already open to renewal customers in a way. So Because of this, there is no price increase. That is one very important point. The second thing is, see, insurance premiums are a bit misunderstood at times. For a consumer, they can get policies, and let's take an example here. Let's say for a 75-year-old adult to buy a 10 lakh rupee health insurance policy, they today have options to buy health insurance for as low as 20,000 rupees a year and as high as 75,000 rupees a year also. So it depends on, what kind of a plan are you buying? What are the features? What are the benefits? What are the limitations? Is there a co-payment or not? Is there a room rent limit or not? And so on and so forth. Without going very technical, there are options available across the spectrum for any consumer. Now, why are health insurance premiums expensive for senior citizens? You have to understand the chances of a claim of a senior citizen are much higher than, let's say, a younger consumer. So accordingly, if you buy young, your premiums at, let's say, 30-year-old will be significantly lower than when you're 75-year-old. And rightfully so, because the chances of a claim are also higher, the value of claims will also be higher, and so on and so forth. So pricing is misunderstood. There are options of all kinds that a consumer can take, from very low cost options to very sort of affluent options as well. It's up to the consumer to decide, how much do they want to spend and what kind of coverage one wants. But this opening of senior citizens doesn't really impact price.
Okay, got that and understood that in entirety as well. Now, when we're talking about premiums, the other question comes in: what will be the flexibility in paying these premiums? Will senior citizens get more options so that they do not have to bear the burden of high premiums at one go? Are there options going to be different from those that are available to those below 65 years of age? Is there going to be in addition, or is it going to be the same?
Oh no, so I think one kudos to the regulator, the IRDAI here has done. They've taken over the last few years, they've taken some wonderful steps around affordability of health insurance. So 2-3 things that can happen here. So first of all health insurance products today are available on monthly installments as well. What that means is, so let me take an example. Let's say the premium is 60,000 rupees for a senior citizen. Now, instead of paying 60,000 rupees at one go, which is a large amount, let's face it, what you can also do is you can pay 5,000 rupees a month. What that means is, for a senior citizen, let's say somebody who's a pensioner, or, somebody who's does not want to spend a lot of money upfront, they can actually pay a monthly premium instead of paying an annual premium. So that makes it a lot more affordable to buy. That's point number one. The other way of reducing your premiums is if you take some sort of a limitation in your product, and I'll explain what that means. So you might say that whenever I claim, I will pay 10% of the bill, and rest of the bill will be paid by the insurance company. What this typically leads to is, it typically leads to almost a 20% reduction in premium. So the policy which was costing 60,000 rupees will now cost 48,000 rupees, as an example. Similarly, a customer, while buying a health insurance policy, may say that whenever I claim, I will take a deductible, which means that whenever I claim, the first 10,000 rupees of the claim will always be paid by me, and beyond the first 10,000 rupees will be paid by the insurance company. Now, beyond the 10,000 rupees may even be 10 lakh rupees, but that will be paid by the insurance company. But the first 10,000 rupees will be paid by me, like it is typically in a car insurance scenario, where you have to pay the first 1,000 or 2,000 rupees. Now, this again leads to a significant reduction in premium, like in 10 to 20%. So the point I'm trying to make is that with these options, one can reduce the premium significantly, and with flexible payment methods like monthly installments, affordability also comes into the picture. So these are two steps how one can manage the premiums or lower the premiums, so that the premium burden is not there, but you're still able to get a comprehensive health insurance policy.
All right, taken that note as well. Now, the other factor that I wanted to discuss is with respect to moratorium period, the duration after which the insurer cannot deny the claim provided if it is not a fraudulent claim, of course. What is the time frame? Is there any change with regards to that?
Yes, actually, this is quite, I would say, quite critical to understand. So, two changes have happened here. Earlier, a regulation had come which said that this time period was 8 years, but that 8 years was with a specific insurance company. Now, the new regulation, it reduces the time period, and it says that instead of 8 years, it's now 5 years. The second thing that now comes is that this could be the total tenure with health insurance. So, for example, let's say I started with company A. After 3 years, I ported my policy into company B, and so on and so forth. So, even if I've changed my health insurance providers, the total tenure of my health insurance, attachment, which is say more than 5 years, then my claim cannot be denied unless obviously there's a fraudulent activity happening. So
Okay.
this gives the consumers a lot more, I would say, strength and belief in health insurance.
Right. But one more question here. What if there has not been a continuation in policy for 5, 6 years, and maybe there have been any breaks in between? Then what happens? Does the moratorium stay or does not stay?
In that case, it will have to restart because it's technically a new policy altogether. See, it's basically banking on the waiting periods because typically when you buy a health insurance policy, like for example, the pre-existing disease waiting period that we spoke about, that's for 3 years. So this is like a moratorium wait period of 5 years after which a claim just cannot be denied. So you have to have continuation in your policy. Otherwise, it becomes a breakage, and the next policy becomes technically a new policy, which means you're starting from scratch.
Okay, fair enough. So you need to have a policy in continuation. That's another very important clarification that's coming in. All right, towards the end, Amit, do tell us and our viewers, people who are watching you, many of them are senior citizens as well. What if after listening to you, a lot of their doubts have for sure got cleared? I'm 100% sure of that. But what are the key things that they should now look for if they do not have a health cover thus far? If they are going afresh for a health cover, what are the things that they need to look for before buying that?
Sure. So firstly, specific to senior citizens, I think one must have adequate coverage. One can't emphasize enough on that. I'll give a simple example. In the last 1 year, we have had one customer of ours who's claimed 1.2 crores of rupees. Unfortunately, the person had cancer, and over the year there were multiple claims. We paid a very, very large amount to that consumer. The point I'm trying to make is that healthcare has become extremely expensive. And whenever, if there's any unfortunate event and you have to go to a hospital, you would not want to compromise on your quality of healthcare. So you would want to go to the best hospital in the country. So make sure that one, you have adequate health coverage. You should not be, stingy or, want to save a very small amount there. One should have at least 10 lakhs of coverage. We typically advise all our consumers that you should have at least 1 crore of coverage. But in senior citizens, because it can become a bit expensive, at least 10 lakhs is one that everybody should have. That is one. The second thing, and very, very important, when you're buying a health insurance policy, please make sure that you declare your current health conditions completely, honestly, and truthfully. So if you already have a disease, you've had a surgery in the past, you're taking some medication, which is a common scenario in case of senior citizens,
Yes.
please make sure that you declare it truthfully and in detail to the insurance company, because if you don't, then your claims can get denied because that's technically committing fraud. So please make sure that you declare this and be completely open and honest. One can be rest assured today that there are now policies available for people who are cancer survivors, for people who have had heart surgeries in the past. Even if you've had an open heart surgery in the past, you can get a health insurance policy. So there are multiple types of options, plans available you can get, but please declare truthfully. And the third most important point, and this is not for senior citizens in specific, but for everybody,
Yeah.
I think one should try and get a health insurance policy as soon as possible in your life, because the moment a pre-existing disease comes in, which is a common scenario now in younger people as well,
Yes.
then health insurance becomes difficult. Waiting periods come into the picture, etc., etc. So ideally, buy a health insurance policy as soon as you can. But if you have missed out on it in the past, then now is not late. You can get something right away.
Okay, you can get something right away. Do not waste time. Get as early as possible. And the key, things that Amit has really told you to keep in mind before you buy that health insurance cover. But it is absolutely essential in today's day and age to have a health cover because of the medical expenses that are soaring to sky high levels as well. Many thanks, Amit. You've clarified a lot of doubts of our viewers. So truly appreciate your time with us on Business Today to help our viewers really understand a lot of these queries and clarifying these frequently asked ask questions or facts, if I may call it. But in case there are any other questions that you still have which have remained unanswered on the senior citizens policy being allowed, as well as more options now available for you, please do write into us, and we will ensure and we'll request Amit to come back and to clarify all of those doubts for our viewers again. Many thanks, viewers, for joining us onto this very special edition. But do stay tuned onto Business Today TV as we continue to get you all the coverage from the world of business and finance upfront.
Indigo, the company has placed fresh orders of 50 new aircraft, which are the larger ones. Let me yes, this is the 30 new A50